In this video, we are going to create a new sheet. We have already created 3 wall sections, structure 1, structure 3, and structure 4. And what we'll do is create a new sheet and drag those drawings, those views into the sheet. So I'm going down to sheet and I'm going to right click and click new sheet. I'll use the same title block I used previously. And where it says unnamed, I'm going to leave the number as it is and call these with all capitals wall sections and say okay. Okay, now the sheet number may change later, but for now, we're really just concerned about setting up the sheet. I'm going to take each of these sections and drag them onto the sheet of paper. Okay, it looks like I have some marker over there that's causing that to be bigger than it needs to be. Now, it may seem like these won't fit, but it takes a little bit of kind of moving things around, but they will for sure. I'm just going to roughly place them and then I'll begin editing them so that they do fit. Okay, now the wall section at structure 3 and structure 4, it's no problem at all. But as you can see with the one for structure 1, it's too tall for the sheet. So we're going to have to kind of compress this section. There's a few areas here where there's not really any significant information, or at least it's continuous. This area right here is the first part that will kind of clip out. But if necessary, there's a little bit of space in here that we can remove from the detail and a little bit here in the foundation wall. So we'll start with this part right here. Now, how do you clip this out? If you click on, double click in the detail. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, let's do this again. I'm going to double click on the edge here and then click one more time. And that's when you're going to see these little squiggles appear. And they are basically, if I hover over here, you see that X, it's going to allow me to eliminate that from the detail. You may say, well, we don't want to get rid of all that, but what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do it, and then we'll stretch the windows to include the information that we need. So I'm going to drag this one down. The notes are all appearing, so I have that as a sort of guide for how big I can, or how much I can remove. And I'm going to extend this up as well. Okay, so now once I have that, I can go over to where this arrow that has an upward head and a downward head, and I can just drag that in closer. Okay, so already I'm getting close to having enough space to include everything in this detail, but I'm going to need to cut out a little bit more. So again, I click on the kind of the border that's around the detail, and then when I see that X appear, that's when I know I can. So let's do that again. Oops. So what I need to do is come closer to those little zigzags. And when I see that the X appears, I click, and then I can drag these. So again, I'm going to drag them so that all the notes appear. And then I'm going to use this arrow to bring it in a little bit closer. And I'll do the same thing down here, bring this one in a little bit closer. Okay, now I think I have enough room maybe. So I need to get the column line identifier closer in here. And it's still, this is my title border here and here. So I still need to move this down a little bit. So I'm going to click on the whole detail and use my arrow keys. Slowly it's going to come down. I'll get it so the top fits. It's coming a little closer here. Now, for some reason, some of my detail got separated. And I need to go figure out why that would have happened. So I just did it so it came back to where it's supposed to be. And I'm going to click outside of the detail here. So I'm no longer kind of within that detail. And then I'm going to click on it once. And now I'm going to use my arrow keys to kind of bring it down. I want that column identifier to be below this line of the border here. Okay, so that's fitting okay. And it looks like I have enough room that I could crop the window here. What I need to make sure I can get in is the detail title. So for this, now all those changes that I just showed you, you can do that by going to the view itself. So this is wall section at structure 1. I can make these same kinds of changes here. You may find it easier to control from this standpoint if you know like how much you're going to be able to kind of clip out of there. So for this part here, I'm going to drag this up a little bit. And now I'm going to go back to my sheet. And as you can see, that's been brought in a little bit. Now there's enough room for me to bring this title into the sheet. Okay, wall section at structure 1. I'm looking for an alignment with the text. This is pretty close. Maybe move it over a little bit. And one thing, if you remember, it's a little tricky. If you want to drag the tail is over here of this text. You can see it highlighted here. I click on the detail, then I can drag this over a little bit. Okay, now I also need to bring in these viewports so that they're inside this border line, but I've got my topography showing over here. So again, I'm going to go to the detail and make this change. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to drag these in pretty close to those level datums. And then I'll go back to the sheet and see how they look. Okay, so things are fitting pretty well. I probably could bring these level datums in a little bit, but I think I'll leave them for now and see if I need to adjust them as I work on this one, I'll do that. But everything is fitting. I'm going to click on this and move it down just a little bit, give a little bit more room to the top. And just so I get a better sense of how it would look when it prints, I'm going to go to that wall section and I'm going to crop, or I'm going to turn off these crop windows, hide crop region. Okay, now when I go back to my detail sheet, I kind of get a better sense of how it will actually look when printed digitally. All right, now I can begin to do a little bit of work on a light gauge metal frame detail. So for this one, I'm also going to do some of this editing from the view itself. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to drag it in a little closer. I could drag this one in also a little closer. You know, now that I've got all the text in there, I know how big the detail is going to be. I could bring this column number in a little bit. And I can also drag these in towards the left. And maybe this one up a little bit. Okay, now the stair pad, that was a new one that was created in working with structure 4. I'm going to right click, or I'm going to left click on it and then right click and then hide element in the view. Don't need that. Okay, going back to the section, things are looking okay. And I will go and I will crop that or turn off the crop region for that as well. Okay, so actually I'm going to end up with more space than I thought I would, and I will be able to click on this detail and move it in a little bit, but work on this last one before making those kind of final decisions. So I'm going to go to wall section at structure 3. Don't know what caused this to be created. I'm going to delete it. We're going to cancel that. I don't want to delete that, but I will crop the view, and then I'm going to hide the crop region when I'm kind of done doing these edits. Let's bring this in. I'll leave it a little bit wider so we can get one of these railing posts in there. There's not a whole lot to change with this one. Most of that editing had been completed. I'm going to turn this off. And let's go take a look at that sheet again. So not really sure why that is appearing. So still not sure what is causing that to appear. It falls off the page. So at the moment, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I do want to make a few more adjustments on this sheet. I want to bring the detail down. I want to move the detail title a little bit away from the earth pattern. The idea is to get all of the detail titles to align across the bottom. So to fix this, I'm going to have to sort of shift things around a little bit. So I'll move this over, and then I'll need to move the tail again. Let's get the ground line to align with this one right here. And move this up a bit. So you can try to make some detail lines if that helps you, and then erase them. So let's move this tail over so that it aligns with the topography. The numbers for these should follow the sequence that you brought them into the page. So 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to move that up again so it aligns with the other ones, and move the title down a bit. Click on the detail so that I can drag the tail. And maybe move all of them, all 3 of them, a little bit down so that I can give a little more space to this one above. Okay. All right, these are aligning. I also like to try to align some of the column numbers. So I'm going to click on this and bring it up a little bit so it's roughly in alignment with the number 7 over there. Okay. Well, this sheet is almost done. Now, one of the other things that we need to do with this sheet is to reset these levels. So I made some changes relating to the particular detail that was being referenced, and didn't realize that these were being changed at all of the locations instead of just locally. So what I would like to do is go back and revise a few of them This one here is not a top of subfloor, it should be top of deck. But to make these changes, I'm going to actually change them globally so we can see everywhere where they're impacting things. I'm going to rename this to level 1 as it had been originally. And some of these will be turning off because we want to be a little bit more specific about what's being identified. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes to this. All right, and as you see, it will have revised some of these. And I'll need to come in and create new level datums to correspond with the particular section. You know, if you were doing one project, you probably would have these relate all across everywhere and you wouldn't need to do this. But since we have these 3 very different structures all within the same file, we need to do this little extra step. So we'll do these one at a time. I've got this one that says top of slab, which does not reflect what's happening here. So what I'm going to do is make a copy of this one and temporarily put it 12 inches or 1 foot above. And then this one I'm going to click on and I'm going to hide it in view. I'm going to move this one back to where the other one was. And I'm going to call this, as I had originally, top of subfloor. Okay, and this is going to be level 1. Okay, it's already got a name. There's already a name out there to that, so I need to vary it a little bit. Let's try top of subfloor. I don't know where that other one is. We call it at level 1. Okay. And we'll do the same thing for this one. I'm going to make a copy of it. Now we're going to have a bunch of extra levels that we'll need to turn off in various locations. Okay, this one, right click, hide in view this element, move this down 12 inches into the same position. And that's going to be called top of subfloor at level 2. Okay, so this one is going to say top of subfloor at level 2. And then the one above here, top of top plate, is fine. So 1, 2, 3, top of stair pad. In this one, we want to turn that off. Turn off hide in view elements. Level 0, we're going to turn this off. And eventually we will, but before we do that, let's go through that same process. Copy 12 inches up. So it's repeating the text here. It's interesting. I'm going to right click, hide this one in view, and I'm going to move this one back down, move 12 inches. Okay, and we're going to call this one top of slab at level, we'll call it level 0. Okay, now if you need to move anything just to kind of make a little bit of space for things, go ahead and do that. I'm gonna move my key up a little bit. Okay, so that one should take care of all of the datums. Top of top plate, top of subfloor, top of subfloor, top of slab. Let's take a look at number 2 here. This one, top of subfloor at level 2. I don't need that in this view. Top of subfloor at slab level. I'm going to need to create a new one here. So I'm going to copy this one, and I probably will need to go back and remove this new one that I'm making from the last wall section. So let's take that and let's hide it. Hide in view. This one works, so maybe we don't need that one. Delete. I'm going to go back and just want to check this. One subfloor. Okay, so that maybe that one's okay. Let's go to wall section at structure 4. This one is going to need to have some new ones created for it. Okay, I'm going to make a copy 12 inches up. Hide in view. Move it back down. So there's a few that are overlapping here. So I'm going to call this one top of decking. Level 1. And I'll move this up a little bit. Let's see what happens on 3. So I think I've got an extra one in here. See where it says decking there. So I need to get rid of that one. Right click, hide and view elements. So this one will be top of slab. This one will be top of decking level 1. And here's subfloor level 2. I'm going to hide that one in the view. Level 2, I'm going to hide that one in the view. And this one is going to, I'll go directly to the architecture ribbon and get a level in here. And click on here to bring this over. Top of decking level 2. Okay, so that works. And I can pull this out a little bit. And when I go to structure level 2, let's see if it appeared. Yeah, it did appear. So here, hide it. Structure number 1, upper plate. Don't see it there. Okay, I think that's all we need to do for these various levels. And we should have them correspond correctly. If I go back to my wall section sheet, just want to have correct descriptions for what they're identifying. Right. So that takes care of this new sheet for the wall sections. Except one thing here that I've noticed, I've got a little bit of a level that's hanging out past the borderline. So I'm going to go to that wall section. And I don't need this. I'm going to right click, hide that element in view. Go back, double check one more time. Make sure the sheet is in good order. Shift this over just a little bit. And save my sheet.